Welcome back to Get Down to Business. And if you are tuning in right now, you are going to have a bit of a, identity crisis. You won't know what hour it is because you are going to hear two shows merged into one. That's right. I've got attorney Stephen A. Leahy, the host of the IRS Radio Hour, which immediately precedes Get Down to Business. Attorney Stephen Leahy, welcome to Get Down to Business.
Well, thank you so much, Shalom. I'm happy to be here, and it feels like I'm at home.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. You get to talk to George. I saw you guys giggling over there before we went live, and
yeah, George always makes me laugh.
Yeah, George, does attorney Stephen Leahy make you laugh as well?
No comment.
Okay, no comment. There we go. Well, Steve, thank you so much for joining us on the air. Let's get started in talking about the IRS Radio Hour. I have fun. I know I emailed you this. I have fun standing here in studio as I do my final show prep. I do the show live. You pre-record. So I stand here in studio and I listen to you talking with some amazing guests, and you talk about IRS resolutions, which is really, really critical, especially right now. So I learn something every single week. How long have you been on the air?
We've been on almost 8 years now, or is it 7 years? Because we started right about the same time you did, Shalom. So I think we started the IRS Radio Hour. Seems like forever ago, but I think it's 7 years now. Is that how long you've been doing it?
Yes, about 7 years. Yeah. Yeah, I think you did come on about the same time as us, so now pretty much we're inseparable.
Absolutely true. Absolutely true. I could, because of course I listen to my show every week, and I wouldn't miss your show. So, again, it's. I feel like I'm at home. It's a member of the family. So
yeah, and I appreciate you guys had me on a couple of weeks ago. You're now recording two shows, which is pretty exciting. We'll talk a little bit about that in a moment. But you had me on, and you're very kindly, before I come on, you're doing an intro to Get Down to Business, which I appreciate. It's funny, our listeners should know that, again, I'm doing my show live. I'm standing here in studio. It is actually Sunday night. I can talk about what the current news is. You guys talked just a couple of minutes ago before I went live, and you were talking about how news that was breaking is now old news. So it's kind of funny to watch what's going on.
It is, and it used to be that the weekends never had any news, so if you're pretty safe, because we record our shows on Friday afternoon. So if we were talking about the news on Friday, nothing really happened until Sunday, but not anymore. So
oh my
the
gosh.
news is really it's a 24-hour cycle now, isn't it?
Absolutely. So, Attorney Stephen Leahy, you are the host of the IRS Radio Hour, where you talk about how IRS debt issues are serious, but ultimately there are resolutions. And I strongly, strongly recommend our listeners tune in every Sunday at 5 p.m. on AM 560 The Answer. And you've been hosting this show for quite a while, but now you also host another show, the Trust Radio Network, and it's all about trusted professionals. Tell us a little bit about how you came up with that concept and what you're doing with that program.
Well, which is what the show that you were on, because you're a trusted professional, right? Being on the radio, we have a good network of people that I come across, right? So I wanted to be able to present them to the listeners and say, there's a lot of important issues in your life, and we need people that we can trust. We don't always know where to go to find them, and so we try to highlight trusted professionals, people that others that the listeners can trust when they're making important decisions. Such as we have lawyers on, and we'll have like Permaseal has been on our show, and Tom Sadeka has been on our show. So many of the advertisers of 560 The Answer have been on our show. Because again, these are trusted professionals, and I've come to know them by some events from the station.
Absolutely. And the station, it's amazing through radio, the amount of networking that you do. Mm-hmm. And I've met some amazing people, including you, through hosting the program, which is pretty exciting. So we're gonna squeeze in a break in a minute or so, and then when you come back, we're actually going to talk a little bit about the topics that you discuss on the IRS Radio Hour on the Trust Radio Network, which is pretty exciting. But the Trust Radio Network, so how can people listen to the show? And I know you're not only airing the show, but you're actually live streaming it, which is pretty cool, and it's fun to watch you and Jimmy and all the cool stuff that you guys are doing.
Well, thank you. Yeah, you can. We have it. You can go to our YouTube channel or our Facebook page has the show live. We are live every Friday at 1:30 till about 4:30 in the afternoon. So it takes a couple hours. And we also have a website called watchtalkradio.com where you can watch us make talk radio.
It is entertaining. I have to say it is entertaining. I think when I was on with you guys, we talked about puppies for a little while. So that's always entertaining. The conversations could go in any direction. And I'll acknowledge that I multitask sometimes while streaming the Trust Radio Network. But you are in for a treat. It's entertaining, but in all seriousness, you do learn a lot from many of the amazing trusted professionals. And I know that you are about to put out an incredible directory of many of those folks that you've had on the show. Yeah. So definitely get on Stephen's Facebook page and website where you can link to that, and you will be exposed to some trusted professionals. I'm chatting with attorney Stephen A. Leahy, the host of the IRS Radio Hour, the host of the Trust Radio Network. We're going to squeeze in a quick break. I'll be right back and Get Down to Business. Welcome back to Get Down to Business, and I'm back with attorney Stephen Leahy, the host of the IRS Radio Hour and the host of the Trust Radio Network. And we've just been joking around about how entertaining conversations on radio can be. But in all seriousness, Stephen, you host some fantastic professionals, and you share a lot of great advice and information. Ultimately, the joy of hosting a show for 7-8 years is that you are able to provide a lot of education about some really important topics because IRS debt and resolution, these are important issues, aren't they?
Absolutely, and I have a lot. It is a serious subject, but we have a lot of fun talking about it and describing how you can go about solving these problems. Because not everybody needs a lawyer to solve the problem. Some people do, but a lot of times people just need to know some information about it and how it all works. And that's what I try to tell people. Absolutely,
and you are obviously an attorney, but you really have focused in a couple of different areas, and we'll make sure that our listeners know how they can get on your website. But you have on your website, you talk about a tax preparation, resolution, bankruptcy, and foreclosure defense. So very briefly, I want to go through a couple of those areas. Tax resolution, we're getting into in just a short time. It seems crazy, but we're going to be back into tax season. So why would somebody work with somebody like you for tax resolution? First of all, is tax resolution really possible?
It is possible because, and that's what people don't understand, is that not everybody, when you owe the IRS money, people get nervous, and a lot of times what happens is that they shut down. So they'll find out that they owe the IRS money, and then they won't file their tax returns, and all of a sudden they'll find out that it's 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, or more later before then they start dealing with it. And I just got a call yesterday about exactly this, and that they owed some money in 2010 and just freaked out, and then just shut down, and now it's 10 years later and they haven't filed their tax returns. So this happens to people. And these are the people that we help.
So you help to negotiate and to make sure that whether it's a payment plan or a penalty abatement or an offer in compromise, these are all terms that might be foreign to listeners because you don't need to know these things. That's why you would work with somebody like yourself, Stephen, right?
Exactly. It's sometimes you don't always have to pay the IRS back what you owe. Sometimes you can pay them back what you can, and that's a big difference, right? So everybody can pay something, and or maybe you can't pay something, and you have to prove that to the IRS, like every other legal case, right? You have to have evidence, and you prove your case, and then you get the IRS to agree that you can't only pay a certain amount rather than exactly what you owe.
Absolutely. And sometimes folks do end up in hard times. That's, this has been a very, very challenging period for so many folks. I say this all the time on the air. We all know somebody that's been affected by COVID, whether it's physical health, mental health, employment. These are tough times. And I know it's not just in the in this era of COVID. I know you've been dealing with this for years. You have a lot of experience, but bankruptcy, Chapter 7, Chapter 13, foreclosure, defense, these are things that you deal with. So I guess my question to you, Attorney Stephen Leahy, is why you? Why would somebody work with you for either the tax resolution, bankruptcy, or foreclosure defense? Why would they work with the open tax advocates in the law office of Stephen A. Leahy?
Well, that's a good question, and you've kind of put your finger on it in that we generally help business professionals, people who are facing more than one of these, especially with this COVID. Like, people are facing more than one problem, so they might not be paying their taxes, but they're also probably having problems paying their bills, right? Or I'm having problems paying my rent, or I have some restaurant owners now, they're having problems paying their rent at the restaurant and trying to keep the creditors at bay. So what we try to do is come up with a solution involving all of your creditors, not just the IRS, and trying to help you get your business back on track. And that's really what we focus on.
Well, it's awesome. And you're providing that education through the radio shows and through the podcast and all that good stuff to make sure that folks can learn whether they engage your services or not. You're providing that education to leave the Chicago market and with all of your programs really nationally to educate, because as we've said, folks are falling on tough times and they need information to make informed decisions. And that's what the show is all about, isn't it?
Exactly. And again, these are serious areas, but we can have fun doing it too, right? So we try to have fun too, and it's not always doom and gloom. Even though things are tough, and you could still have some fun, but you still have to focus on solving these problems. Yeah,
solving the problems. And one thing that I will say, I know about your firm is that from start to finish, and I guess this is the advantage to also working with you, Stephen, is that you'll always have one attorney working on your case the entire time. It's not it's not a big firm where you might have 25 different people working on the case. You don't know who to call, and then the fees add up and things like that. Ultimately, it is all about relationships. I know you are proud of relationships. I am as well. And that's why it's such a pleasure following you. It's a tough act to follow, I have to say, every week on the air. You're a tough act to follow, but I do my best. I hope I'm doing an okay job.
You do a terrific job, and I'm so happy that you're after us, and I'm so happy that we had that you and I have connected, and that I can help your listeners and you can help mine. So that's great.
Absolutely. So again, I've been chatting with attorney Stephen A. Leahy from law office, but also open tax advocates, open tax resolution, and providing a lot of great services, tax resolution, bankruptcy, foreclosure, defense, and the host of the IRS Radio Hour and the Trust Radio Network. Stephen, how can folks get a hold of you?
Well, first you can go to my website at chicagotaxteam.com. You can listen to our shows there because they're there, and there's lots of information there. Or you can call me at 312-664-6649.
Fantastic. Stephen, thanks so much for joining us on the air. 312-664-6649. I'll be back with Andrew Karai in just a moment. Attorney Stephen Leahy, thanks so much for joining us on Get Down to Business.